I got to tell you, I looked this up because we covered this the day it happened. James, I don't know if you saw this, but the 1,250 horsepower Corvette, this is a ZR1X, decisively beat the Hummer. I guess maybe we shouldn't be surprised. But the Hummer easily outperformed the Escalade. I'm not sure if there's a life lesson in there, but I kind of wish I was at the drag race. Were you at the track that day?
I was not at the track that day, but I would love to.
Super cool facility. This is like where the first rollover test took place. They got 150 miles to drive whatever they want to do out there. And the president did have a pretty good story to tell. How are these companies putting up numbers like this in an environment like this where a year ago we were talking about the potential for a catastrophe beginning with the tariff regime?
Yeah, I think there's one word to describe it, and it's resiliency. I think the companies are resilient. I think the customer is resilient. And so what's happening is companies like General Motors and Ford and Toyota and others are having to navigate a challenging and complex industry, and they're doing it really well because they have products that customers want and need, and the market's holding up pretty well.
And they're answering demand, we're told, by turning back to the old-fashioned ICE product like an SUV. We're at $4 and something a gallon, and people can't seem to fill the tank fast enough. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think, well, that's certainly...
Is that not true?
That's part of the top line, but let's unpack it a little bit.
Sure.
There is no question that SUVs and pickup trucks are selling. But what we're also seeing is compact SUVs and small pickup trucks are outselling large SUVs and large pickup trucks. What we're also seeing this year so far is a downward trend in the sale of ICE vehicles and an upward trend in the sale of hybrids and a little bit of BEVs.
Interesting.
But like we're at a historic low with regard to the sales of internal combustion
hybrid
engines.
is what is filling the gap.
Hybrids are filling the gap.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Does that play into the price of gas? I'm just calling up AAA here. We're at $4.09 today.
Yeah.
We've seen worse, but this is historically an issue, and you've got diesel over $5, which is a completely different conversation. But is it changing people's buying behavior?
I think it is. I think that's part, like this trend of more hybrids has been going on for some time.
Sure.
But it's clearly, there's a lot of opportunity for customers to get what they want with a more efficient powertrain.
Okay. I want to ask you about this move to keep Chinese-made vehicles out of the country. I went to Capitol Hill last week to talk with Senator Alyssa Slotkin, who was the Democrat on the bill, along with Senator Moreno, was the Republican. They both joined us initially when the bill dropped. We spoke with her the day it cleared committee. Here's what she had to say.
This wasn't targeted at any one car company. We want them to continue selling cars in the United States of America. We really just say, like, you can't have a serious influence from the Chinese Communist Party in what you do in America.
Interesting.
And those cars are driving surveillance collectors. I can't, as a former CIA officer and as a Michigander, in good faith, say that they should be sold in the United States.
All right, so she's talking about more than, BYDs. There are cars that people might not be thinking of, like Volvo, have a majority ownership by a Chinese entity. Mercedes. Do there need to be waivers for companies like this, or do they need to start moving things around in their ownership structure?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's a little bit different for Volvo versus Mercedes. So Volvo is already subject to current regulation related to connected vehicle technology and potential influence from China. And what the regulator did is provided Volvo with permission to stay in the market, right? So they analyzed the situation and they negotiated and drew a conclusion that Volvo was okay to operate in the market. What the bill that Senator Slotkin and Senator Moreno were sponsoring would add, in addition to the regulation, a new ownership threshold, and that threshold would be set about 15%, and that's what would bring Mercedes in, and in that case, they would be regulated just like Volvo is, and they would have to go through that process with the regulator. Could they achieve a waiver? I would imagine they could.
That is a possibility,
Sure,
according to both senators.
Of course.
Would you like to see that happen? They're all part of the alliance, right?
Yes, they are all part of the alliance. This is a very challenging set of issues. We have companies on all sides of this, companies that think there should be a threshold, companies that think there shouldn't be a threshold because the agency is capable of making these decisions on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
This is why we have policymakers, and this is why we depend on the leadership of Senator Slotkin and Senator Moreno to make the right political decision based on the equities as they see them.
There are questions about what it is we're trying to keep from happening, because you can't buy a Chinese car in this country. Is there a belief that if this bill were not passed, that someday you will have a BYD lot in Northern Virginia?
I think that's part of it.
Or wherever.
Look, we have strong tariff protection right now, right? The U.S. government has concluded that vehicles from China represent unfair and discriminatory competition. So that's the 301 tariff. The agency has concluded, the Commerce Department, that this technology is a surveillance and national security threat. So that's what creates the market as it is today. What the legislation does is tighten those regulations up and maybe reduce some of the flexibilities and loopholes that might be available to a future administration.
Because your fear is having a Chinese-made car like a BYD, or having a Chinese part in a seemingly non-Chinese car that might be a listening device.
There's two concerns here. One is competition's got to be fair and reciprocal. When it's fair and reciprocal, companies here can compete with companies anywhere. So that's the first point. The second point is, yes, this national security and surveillance concern must be addressed. And by the way, the Chinese have similar rules.
Let's talk a little bit about the rest of the industry here, because we're in an environment with high gas prices, as we're mentioning, high oil prices, and a trade agreement with Mexico and Canada that's up for renewal. The White House doesn't seem too eager to renew it. This will keep extending and rolling year after year if we don't do something about it. How important is it to the auto sector that we renegotiate and renew the USMCA?
It is absolutely critical that we conclude a new trilateral agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. Absolutely. Think of it not just as a trade agreement. Think about it as a competitiveness platform. This is critical to create Fortress North America to be able to compete against China and to be more competitive vis-a-vis China. And so it's that important.
Does that keep automakers protected otherwise from tariffs that might force them to move manufacturing lines?
I think it's critical because right now what we've had over the last 26 or 27 years is duty-free, seamless trade that has allowed the companies to optimize labor, energy, production, and innovation to create affordability and choice for consumers in the U.S. That's a wonderful thing. We need more of that, and that's what the trade agreement does.
What's it like when you go to buy a car? Do you like, you're like, I'm not getting the undercoating. I know this game, you guys. You must be the best guy to go car shopping with, right?
I'm maybe the second or third best.
Yeah.
I do enjoy it. You know, I learn a lot from our dealer partners every time I go into a dealership.
You go knock on Don Byer's door to talk about it. What do you think about buying a car online? Would you ever do it?
Certainly research.
I can't imagine
online.
that, by the way.
Certainly
research, sure. But people are ordering a car online. It shows up in the driveway.
You know, I'm a kick the tires guy.
You want to go take it out for a test drive, right?
I do.
Do you take the guy with you on the test drive, or do you demand the car on your own?
No, always.
You don't want to be alone in the car?
No.
Really?
Well, it's not that I don't want to be alone. I want to.
You don't want this guy breathing on you.
I want to give a running commentary.
Okay, really?
Wow. I'll give the feedback.
Would you come with me when I buy my next car?
I'd be delighted.
All right, this is the deal. We have this on the air. You got the date, James. This is great. I'm glad you came to see us once again.
Joe, thank you.
Because we have a lot of important issues to talk about when it comes to USMCA. The impact of energy prices, they all converge on your business. It's really something.
No doubt.
Cars are America, I guess.
Indeed.
Something like that.